A lot of time has passed, but the analysis that I talked about on this channel back when we came into this low point here, the descending broadening wedge, well, it's still here. It's still in play. Nothing has changed from this perspective. We are still in the same long-term pattern, which means that if this is an inverse head and shoulders, and if we do have that recovery taking place moving forward, the target is also going to be based on the descending broadening wedge. Since March, Bitcoin has been going sideways and down. From 74,000, a pullback to about 56,500, with a bounce towards 72,000, a dump towards 53,500, a pump to 70,000, a dump to 49,000, a bounce to 65,000, and a pullback to 52,500. If this pattern was going to continue, this range, the next move would be something like a push above 60,000. That would just be continuation. And because we have a higher low now in the short term, that does give evidence to suggest the bulls may be regaining a little bit more control, which could then put us into a very, very strong consolidation before a recovery. Because what we're seeing now on the chart is a low with a lower low and now a higher low. This is suggesting that the bulls may be regaining control, that the momentum might be about to shift in the long term. We've gone sideways and down for about 180 days so far. In 2023, we went sideways for about 193 days. So this consolidation, believe it or not, is not longer than what we saw in 2023. It's just about the same length. And in the end, what is that? Well, I mean, it's simply a stair step at this point. Another key perspective is that Bitcoin also tends to take 30 to 40 weeks post having to break above or trend above the all-time high. Keyword trend above the all-time high. 2016 halving, 40 weeks. That is when we began to close weeklies and trend above the all-time high. 2020, 30 weeks, trending above the all-time high. Currently, we are about 20 weeks or so in, so we're early. Actually, if Bitcoin had already began to trend above the all-time high, that would have been the earliest all-time high trend of all time in terms of the halving cycle timing. And if we take the average of 30 and 40 weeks, that means that around November or December, I think more specifically November, that is when we should be expecting Bitcoin to be trending with multiple weekly closes marching into new all-time highs. So Bitcoin is minus 23% from the top, and we are currently plus 270% from the bottom. So why is sentiment so negative? Bob Lucas had a pretty interesting tweet the other day. He said in past cycles, Bitcoin did 30% drawdowns very often and with ease. We all took it on the chin. Feels different this cycle. I sense a lot more uneasiness, and I believe it's because this is the second or third cycle for most people, and they're looking for a set for life cycle. Overexposed. People may just be heavily overexposed to the market, having grand expectations to be set for life after this bull run. And because everyone is so overexposed, all the hardcore crypto people, every time there's a dip, there's a big concern. Even though in past cycles, 2017, 40% dips, that happened multiple times in 2017 on the way from 200 to 20,000. But yes, I do agree with this tweet from Bob. I think it's an interesting point he makes here. Now, in my view, Bitcoin is likely just a couple months away from a new all-time high. People think that that's a crazy statement. All Bitcoin needs to do is recover that lost 24%, and we're at a new all-time high. If we just zoom in on the monthly here and you just take a look at any of these monthlies that we see, these large monthly bounces, any one of these candles would place us in a new all-time high if we found something like that right here. So things in the market can change much faster than you expect. So looking at Bitcoin on the daily once again, I'm looking for something along these lines. I do think that this higher low is showing that we are concluding this range, that we're likely going to squeeze into this zone for a while. It might take until, October to really get settled up before seeing a move, getting a higher high on the chart. And so I am looking for a general recovery in the coming months. Towards the beginning of October is what I would guess. That's what I'm looking for. Now on this channel, we usually stick to higher time frames, daily, weekly, monthly. And for those of you that have been keeping track of the longer term, which I think very little people actually do that, the pattern hasn't changed for Bitcoin. We are in a descending broadening wedge. A lot of time has passed, but the analysis that I talked about on this channel back when we came into this low point here, the descending broadening wedge, well, it's still here. It's still in play. Nothing has changed from this perspective. We are still in the same long-term pattern, which means that if this is an inverse head and shoulders, and if we do have that recovery taking place moving forward, the target is also going to be based on the descending broadening wedge. There are multiple ways to get a target for a descending broadening wedge, measuring from the top to the bottom of the pattern, and also measuring from the widest point of the wedge and getting your target that way. Now, from the highest point to the lowest point of the wedge, we just extrapolate that on a possible breakout zone, roughly speaking. Well, the target becomes something like 92,000, roughly. From the widest point of the wedge so far, that target comes in at about 89,000. So anywhere from 89 to 92,000 is the collective target, using both of these methods. 89 to 92,000. Now, obviously, a lot of people have had pretty negative sentiment. They've been really upset. And when someone like me comes on YouTube and tells them that the target of the descending broadening wedge pattern is 89 to 92,000, they just freak out because they just want me to tell them that we're going to zero, right? They just want to, they want to hear the bad stuff. They want to hear their bias be confirmed. But this is the same analysis we've discussed on this channel for a while. Why? Because the pattern is still valid. And so this is the setup that I'm looking for on the next major multi-month move up. I'm looking for something like 92,000. Is that my cycle peak target? No, that is the target of this setup, how you're supposed to obtain the target of this pattern. I'm talking about the next major macro move. And keep in mind that we are on track right now with previous cycle timing. Bitcoin is not behind schedule. The only thing that's behind is our expectations. 2020, 30 weeks after, trending above the all-time high. Bitcoin, in theory, on average, 35 weeks later, trending above the all-time high. Right? I don't see why that's unreasonable. I think it's pretty straightforward and logical. And that would be putting us somewhere in the end of November or middle of December as our trending above the all-time high moment. So there is time for things to develop. It's not going to happen overnight. We're going to have to work our way up there. And this is something else I posted on Twitter, Bitcoin dominance. Will history repeat for Bitcoin dominance? Looking at this Bitcoin dominance chart, we can see that we are meeting the multi-year resistance line. This is the point in all previous cycles where Bitcoin dominance peaked before a major alt season. Altcoins are all just decimated and undervalued. So it really wouldn't be a surprise to see a lot of them start to come back up, regain some market share. Now, if you look at the last cycle, 2020, right, this zone right here, it appeared as if the dominance chart had a downtrend line positioned like this, but we had a fake out above it and then a pullback. A big blow off top for Bitcoin dominance before pushing into alt season. So would it surprise me if we saw another fake out up for Bitcoin dominance before a major push into alt season? No, that would not surprise me at all. Quite possible. So only time will tell, but Bitcoin in theory would be near a zone where Bitcoin dominance would start to come down and altcoins would begin to recover. If you guys follow me on Twitter, then you may have seen the Kraken Pro update for the technical analysis widgets here. You can keep track of some of your top key indicators right on your homepage without having to open up every indicator. Keep track of all of them right here in your widget on your dashboard. Sign up for Kraken Pro using that link below. That is it for today's video. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit the like button, and sign up for Patreon if you want to get extra content and support this channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.